So you've written that great song, and now it's time to mix it. A great mix can really make a good song come alive. The way the parts interplay with each other, the way a song ebbs and flows as it moves along, can really bring a song to life. Or a bad mix can ruin a song. Now, this is not a course on mixing. There'll be some other courses on Mac Pro Video about that. But this is a course on using the Pro Tools Mixer. And we'll start by bringing it up. And if you remember, the way we do that is Command equals. That toggles between the edit window and the mixer. Now I'm looking at my mixer in big, fat, wide channel displays. Each of my channels is shown with a fader, with some solo mute buttons and a record button, a panner, which determines where the track is placed in the stereo spectrum, or if you're using surround, in the surround spectrum, and then some other things up here like my input and output. Now I can shrink the size of these channels, narrow them, by choosing Narrow Mix from my View menu or using the shortcut Command Option M. And that toggles between the fat channels and the thin channels. Thin channels abbreviate everything so that you can fit more on the screen. Notice how all my channels are colored, and those colors correspond to the track colors that I had in my edit window. And I can change those easily by double-clicking the bar, the color bar, and choosing, let's say, change this purple to blue, back to purple, and so forth. If I select multiple ones, by the way, let's say these 4 and these 3, and click the color bar, you'll notice both colors that I've used are shown. So if I want to change them all to one color, let's say that, I can click on it. And I can undo that, of course, with Command Z. Now each track that I've used is shown in my mixer, and there's a little icon which tells me what type of track it is. A stereo or a mono or a surround audio track has a little waveform. An instrument track, a virtual instrument track, has a little keyboard, and a MIDI track has a little MIDI symbol. And there are a couple other track types which we'll get to in the coming lessons. Now I'm going to start playing the song. I'm in loop mode here, and I'm going to just start playing. And we won't hear anything because all of my faders are down, but you can see the meters. And the meters go from green to yellow to red, and red means that we are clipping. Remember, digital clipping chops off the wave. It's typically not a good thing. I can raise a fader up, and I'll hear that sound. I can change the placement in the stereo spectrum by clicking my panner and moving it. That's a mono track. I have a single channel display here. For a stereo track, I have a left and right meter, and I can control the panning of both sides. So this puts it somewhere in the middle of the right side. By the way, I can option click on a meter, and that will bring me to 0 dB, which is shown down here. That's my normal fader. Anything below 0 reduces the volume, and I can go up to plus 12. I can hide or show tracks by clicking this arrow down here, just like I can in the edit window, and I can drag this out a little bit. And any tracks that I show or hide here will also show or hide here. So if I show my bass drum and my hi-hat and switch back, there's my bass drum and my hi-hat. And of course I can option click on these to show them all, or option click again to hide them all. I can select a track and it shows up instantly here. And you'll notice that as I'm selecting here, it's also selecting in my edit window. It makes it easy to jump back and forth. What's also nice is this display here. Right next to the output, in this case optical 1-2 for my audio interface, there's a little meter. And if I click on that meter, I get a nice big fat display of that channel, the meter, the solo and mute buttons, the panners, some other things. I can switch between that track and any other track. So now I'm looking at my electric guitar. Now I'm looking at my tenor sax. And by clicking on this button, the maximize button, I can show not only the channel, but also the output that that channel is going to. Now, all of my tracks are all going to the same output right now, but you'll see in a couple lessons how we can change where these go and send them to different outputs. So right now, though, this is really the sum of all of my tracks. So as I add in my tenor sax and my organ and my bass drum, my drum kit, see I'm starting to clip there. Not a good thing. And then I can make this go away if I want by just closing it, or by clicking on the output button again, clicking on a different output button. If I want to keep this fader active and keep it, let's say right over there, this is a target button, and that shows me the current track that I'm working with. But if I turn it off, it means that that track is sort of fixed there, and it won't go away as I bring up other outputs. So you can see how I can use the target button to put up a fader, especially if I have a big screen and there are certain things that I want to monitor. I can keep those on my screen at all times, no matter what else I do, toggling back and forth. They will stay there because that target button is off. And of course, I can close those easily. There are a couple other sections of the mixer which I can get to from this menu down here. For example, we'll talk about inserts in the next lesson. There are 10 inserts labeled A through E and F through J, and I can bring those up by just choosing them here. There are also 10 sends, which we'll talk about. There's even a comments field, which shows up down at the bottom here. And I can show my entire mixer by choosing all, and there's an awful lot of stuff in the mixer. Or just the minimal setup, which is basically my inputs, outputs, my automation section, which we'll talk about soon, grouping, which we'll talk about soon, panner, and input monitoring, record, solo, mute, my fader and my meter, a display of the value of the fader, the symbol of that type of track, the name of the track, the color, and that's it. So that's a quick introduction to the mixer. In the next lesson, we'll learn about those inserts.